I recently watched the latest Mission Impossible film, Dead Reckoning Part 1, and I thought I'd do a review. The film is doing very well at the box office, reviews are overwhelmingly positive, and genuinely speaking, I'd say I enjoyed the film for the most part. Though I didn't think it was great. Just entertaining, a bit of fun, and I think that's what it's supposed to be really. But before I can really share my thoughts and feelings on this one, I need to first give an overview of what I think of this Mission Impossible film series. I've only seen 5 of them, the first 2 films, Ghost Protocol, Fallout, and now this 7th film. I didn't see Mission Impossible 3 or Rogue Nation. I think Mission Impossible 2 is one of the worst action films I've ever seen. John Woo's cheesy slow-motion shots and directing style really irritated me. I hate the tone and feel of that one. I think the first film is still the best of the Mission Impossible films I've seen. I think it's the most believable. I really enjoyed the slower pace, the intensity of it, and it was less action-heavy, more espionage, thriller-centric, with elements of paranoia. Ghost Protocol is decent, and it's perhaps most memorable for that fantastic edge-of-your-seat scene where Ethan Hunt climbs the Burj Khalifa and his magnetic glove fails and he slips a few floors. Absolutely heart-and-mouth stuff. Wonderful. Fallout took the action set pieces to another level, but the stories always seem to be much the same in these films. Terrorist group has nuclear bomb or some kind of MacGuffin that could start World War III or something. Ethan Hunt and his team have to stop it by covert means. The plot will be filled with car chases, spy tech, rubber mask disguises, a litany of opportunities to dress up at fancy cocktail parties, big explosions, death-defying stunts no one should be able to walk away from, be they on motorbikes, from helicopters, or skydives from planes. There's exposition aplenty, clever gadgets, double crosses, ambushes, twists and turns, and all manner of contrived reasons for international location shooting in some of the world's major cities. Paris, London, Rome, Venice, Mumbai, Dubai, Moscow, all the globe-trotting adds some nice colour and interesting background eye candy to the film and is usually justified because the MacGuffin the team have to track down is in the possession of some important broker/underworld gangster who's looking to sell it on the black market, etc. And the clock is ticking for Ethan and co to stop a world-shattering catastrophe. That's the basic formula to a Mission Impossible movie, and as predictable as it is over the top, the formula works and has been tried and tested. These films feel like a mix between James Bond and Fast and Furious. I would place the Mission Impossible films a few notches above a Fast and Furious movie, obviously. The Mission Impossible saga is a little more intelligent, and everything about it is more slick and better produced. But the franchises are quite similar in that they have become less about story and character and more about action set pieces. These kinds of films are popcorn affairs. They're thrill rides. They're a good time. And Dead Reckoning Part 1 is no different. And Ethan has to track down a MacGuffin, a literal key to saving the world from a deadly nefarious artificial intelligence called the Entity that has become self-aware. It even managed to trick the Russian submarine, the Sevastopol, into blowing itself up because it fooled its computer systems into believing the ship was under an attack. The Entity can infiltrate any modern computer system and can learn, process enormous amounts of information and data quickly and make predictions about the future, including predicting human behavior. It can stay one step ahead of its enemies by analysing all potential eventualities in a given situation. There's one scene where Simon Pegg's character of Benji is directing Ethan over comms, only for the Entity to intercept the transmission and simulate Benji's voice, directing Ethan into a trap. The team, and indeed the US intelligence agencies trying to stop it and control it, cannot trust their own computers or smartphones. Any telecommunications can be faked by the Entity. It can therefore manipulate people in all sorts of ways, because it can fool them into believing they're receiving authentic communications from a particular person, when they are in fact in contact with the AI, which has its own sinister agenda. I have to say, that aspect of the story is genuinely intriguing, and speaks to the era we're living in right now of deepfakes and AI-driven neural networks. We've become far too reliant on the digital world, which is a reliance that could be exploited by a nefarious AI. At one point in the film, US intelligence have to go back to using cathode ray tube displays and older analog computer terminals from decades ago, completely cut off from the internet, making use of a weather monitoring satellite instead. The film asks the question of how can we know what the truth is when the source of that truth, the digital world, has been compromised in such a manner. Mind you, the film doesn't exactly delve too deeply into this theme. After all, this isn't supposed to be a highbrow, cerebral and philosophical story. It is, first and foremost, an action-centric spy caper designed to thrill, not so much make you think. Anyway, crucial data has to be backed up on hard copies, so information has to be written on typewriters before the entity takes over the primary intelligence data centers. They have to fall back on old technology. The entity is spreading like a virus. The film also sees the return of Henry Czerny as Kittredge, who previously appeared in the first film. I actually really liked that they finally addressed the abbreviation IMF. There's a high-level meeting of intelligence personnel, and Kittredge has to explain to them that this IMF is a different IMF to the International Monetary Fund. The IMF team stands for Impossible Mission Force. This time Ethan has to grapple with a more personal enemy, the character of Gabriel, played by Issa Morales, and he must also team up with a thief named Grace, played by Hayley Atwell, who gels very well with the long-running cast. I found the car chase in Rome a tad long-winded. It's the scene where Ethan and Grace are handcuffed together. It's all a bit drawn out and distracts from the main plot a little bit. Rebecca Ferguson returns as Ilsa, and there's a really silly scene where she fights Gabriel at night on this bridge, and Ethan is trying to get to her. There's a moment where Gabriel has his back turned to Ilsa, and she has this opportunity to simply take out a gun and shoot him dead right then and there. She decides instead to take out a sword, and they proceed to fight that way. Don't know why, utterly ludicrous. Of course, he kills her because she never stood a chance fighting him that way. Shooting him from a distance, even in the back, would have solved an awful lot of hassle. The end showdown takes place on the Orient Express. Long story short, Ethan gets the 2 pieces of the key, which he learns opens a fail-safe computer system of the entity on the Sevastopol submarine. The film ends not so much on a cliffhanger, but with a reasonably satisfying conclusion that still leaves the main plot thread open. It looks like Part 2 will be a race to get to the submarine first. Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning is an entertaining action ride, but after you've watched a few of these films, it's hard not to see them as pretty simple and formulaic. They're kind of derivative after a while. The primary plot of these films is fairly generic and always secondary to the action sequences. That's why I can't rate these kinds of films too highly, because ultimately the story serves the action and not the other way around. The emphasis is on stunts, fights, special effects, and breathtaking set pieces, and the plot is just the talky bits that happen in between. That said, the cast have fantastic chemistry together. The character of Ethan is very likeable and charismatic as a protagonist, and there's a few humorous moments in there that genuinely made me laugh. These films tend to be exposition heavy, and the dialogue is delivered thick and fast, making some scenes feel a bit clunky. It feels as if the directing instructions for these scenes was to get the actors to rush through the dialogue as fast as possible in order to justify getting to the next big action scene before the audience starts to get bored. There's certainly no boring moments in the film. You certainly get your money's worth of action and fun. The problem is that the exposition that drives the story is sometimes so quickly delivered that it's kind of easy to be sitting through an action scene thinking, why are they doing this again? Why did they come to Rome? Remind me again why they're in Venice now? Who's after them and why? Why is Ethan trying to parachute onto the Orient Express? To try to reduce confusion as much as possible, the plots of these films are simplified to being about a search for a MacGuffin, which is needed to stop a terrible, terrible world-destroying thing from happening. All you have to do is remember that they're trying to get 2 halves of a key that opens something they don't yet know that relates somehow to the entity. The film is paced as fast as any of the other films, but the quieter scenes make for a nice change of pace, allowing for some degree of character development, albeit briefly. The film is well produced, beautifully shot and edited, and the action is superb. I think this film also benefits from the fact that there's a huge amount of goodwill among audiences towards Tom Cruise and his films, and an appetite for more, especially since Top Gun Maverick. He has consistently delivered a high-quality action film product for many years now, and Dead Reckoning Part 1 is no exception. I also think people get a sense of his enthusiasm from his work. It's well known he performs many of his own stunts, and I think that adds an additional uniqueness to this franchise. There's no woke stuff to worry about, just straight up no-nonsense action movie fun. Escapist summer blockbuster entertainment at its best. But it is ultimately popcorn. It's a nice tasty snack, but it's not a main course. Thanks very much for watching. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Take care, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. The Dave Cullen Show is made possible by you, my generous subscribers. If you'd like to support my work, head on over to my Subscribe star, linked below in the description box, and for a pledge of as little as $1 per month, you can help to keep the show going. I'm also doing one-to-one monthly subscriber chats. Thanks again. Take care.